أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين شفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين وأصحابه المنتجبين ولعنة الله الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أما بعد السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته أحرم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بأبي عبد الله الحسين عليه الصلاة والسلام. Continuing from yesterday, when we look at religions, we will see that the appeal that they have is only in accordance with their ability to supply human beings with a sense of real purpose and showing them a direction through which they can attain that purpose with utmost ease. Religions have a very realistic understanding of human existence, and that understanding is actually in accordance with the way in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this existence and the way human existence ought to be in line with the existence that Allah has created. And that was the huge appeal of religions. Why do you think when the Prophet came that his message appealed to people? Because it gave them a real sense of meaning and purpose. It wasn't an imposition upon the people. It was something that came very naturally. It was an understanding of life which was a realistic understanding, in which the Prophet pointed out the flaws of human beings, the weaknesses of human beings. He understood the nature of human beings, that these people evolve from a state of weakness into strength. At the same time, his religion had such pragmatic appeal. And religions before the Prophet, Judaism, Christianity, were no different. In fact, when we look at it carefully, and we may get an opportunity to discuss this further, that all of them fall in the same vertical line of one and the same religion. And that Islam is not a name of what the Prophet brought, but it's a generic designation for all these divine systems that have catered for human existence and evolution in a very meaningful way. If the religions were impositions, they would have struggled and they would have faded away altogether. But the fact that these religions embrace humanity at large shows that they came naturally. And two, the application of these religions was a very natural process, because the understanding that these great prophets had about human life was a very real understanding. Let us give a few examples as we build into the theme. When alcohol was finally made haram within the Quran, and you know the story of alcohol consumption, it came in stages. People were deterred from consumption of alcohol. Do not approach prayers whilst you are drunk. Until you know what you are talking about, at that point arrive at prayers. And at other places it is from the act of the devil. And finally the ordinance came that alcohol is prohibited. Now after that, a person came to the Prophet of Allah and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I consume alcohol. Now here, upon analysis, we see that the Prophet ﷺ is the head of state. He is the absolute authority. But the way in which he had created his community and the comfort that he has given to his community is such that people can be very genuine with him, very open with him, without the fear of any implication. So this person comes to the Prophet and says, Ya Rasulullah, I consume alcohol. Now that is quite audacious of this person to say. But not only that, he said, but in addition, I am not ready to give up consumption of alcohol. Now here is an individual coming to the lofty prophet who has conveyed on behalf of God and audaciously saying, I consume alcohol and I am not ready to give it up. But look at the prophet's understanding of the situation. He has created this atmosphere in which people are at ease with him to discuss whatever they want to discuss. They know full well that this man will not judge us. Not only that, he will direct us in accordance with our weaknesses and our limitations. Now the Prophet of Allah said to him, smilingly, well then what can you give up with for me? And he said, well, I can give up lying for you because I lie. I have a habit of not telling the truth. And I can give that up for you. The Prophet said, fine, we have a deal. Don't lie and carry on doing whatever you are doing. Of course, the Prophet did not say that, but he just remained silent and said, okay, then don't lie for me. What was the Prophet doing? He had a very realistic appreciation of human life. That human beings are people that flow from weakness into strength. And their genuine intentions are to be appreciated. And we need to build on every small strength that they have in order for it to culminate into greater strength and greater light. And through which allow them to overcome their own hurdles, their own weaknesses. After a little while, that person came to the Prophet and said, Ya Rasulullah, I have given up consumption of alcohol. And the Prophet said, well, how so? He said, because I promised that I would not lie. And every time I would consume alcohol, one of your Sahabis would ask me, oh man, what have you done? As opposed to lying and saying, I've just come from the mosque, having devoted myself to Allah. In embarrassment, I had to bow my head and admit and acknowledge that I have consumed alcohol after its prohibition. The embarrassment was such that I was forced to give up alcohol. Now the Prophet of Islam here does not see a community of angels. He sees a community of frail human beings. And through that frailty of humanity, that weakness of humanity, he addresses them in a very meaningful way in which they find it extremely easy to become good people, considering that they are flawed human beings. This was the whole appeal of religion. The religion that we have today is not a religion for moral human beings. It's a religion for the lowest common denominator amongst human beings. Because today's religion operates on the basis of incentives and threats. What sort of incentives? What sort of threats? Incentive which is paradise, threat which is hell. Whereas the Prophet's religion and the religions that went before him, which is the same Islam in the vertical line, was nothing to do with the lowest common denominator amongst human beings. It came to address the godliness within hearts. You see, today, the prayer is prayed in order to achieve paradise. How wonderful was what Rabia al-Adawiyya did. She carried a bucket of water and they asked her, what do you intend to do with this? She said, I wish to throw it upon the pits of hell and to extinguish all the flames so that no one may worship Allah through the fear of hell. And she cried out, O Lord, if it is for your paradise that I worship you, deny me it. And if it is the fear of hell through which I become obedient to you, then cast me therein. How wonderful is what Ibn Sina had said. He said, look at the sorrowful lot of the Muslims. They have rendered means into ends and ends into means. God, who was the loftiest goal, has become a means. And hell and heaven, which were means, have become ends in themselves. Today a Muslim prays salah and devotes himself to God in order to go to paradise. Whereas paradise was supposed to be a means to go to God. The Prophet's religion addressed those noble souls to bring out the best in humanity. And he kept a little whip known as hell. The whip has become the predominant force within religion today. The Prophet's Islam was for true souls that were evolving. Today's Islam is for the thugs. That if you don't do this, you will be punished in this way. Now it doesn't work. It becomes an imposition. Yesterday, when Hussein Salamullah alayhi was giving his sacrifice, he was surrounded by souls who did not care less about paradise. Do you know that those people who were with Imam Hussein, they did not even have a clue, apart from the very close circle, as to what was happening. They didn't know that their actions would have such far-reaching consequences. They did not know they would become immortal. They did not know that they would become the saviors. They did not know this. The only thing they knew was that this man is our objective. We love him. We know he is righteous. Our sense of religiosity merely tells us to defend him, and that's it. There was no notion of we will become perpetual, we will become ever-living, we will become eternal, Islam will be saved by us. These considerations never entered into their minds. In fact, the core circle of Hussein was so immersed in Hussein. It's amazing. It's amazing that the people in the outer circle of Hussein's army, Salamullah alayhi, they would say to each other, look at these people, look at Hussein. Look at the face of Abbas. Look at Akbar. Look at the brothers of Abbas, Uthman and others. Look at these people. You see no fear of death on their faces. There is no, they're not perturbed at all at the fate that faces them. They are not fazed by the swords and sheathed in front of them. Of course, they were afraid of death, and it's quite natural to fear death, but when they saw this close circle of Hussein, they were amazed that these people have no fear. Look at their faces, how radiant they are. And a further testimonial to this is that when people like Muslim ibn Awsaja, when he fell, Habib went to him and said, Muslim, do you have any last request that I may fulfill, even though I know I'm soon to join you? Muslim raised his trembling hand and pointed at Hussein, and he said, عَلَيْكَ بِهَذَا الشَّخْص مَا دُمْتَ حَيًّا. O Habib, save this man for as long as you are alive. When Hul's head was in the lap of Hussein, he broke into a smile. Habib said, Hul, do you see his grandfather quenching your thirst with the chalice, with the goblets of Kawthar? He said, no, Habib. He said, then why do you smile? He said, because I find my head in his lap. These people were noble souls. Religion had come to address this nobility within us, but at the same time to manage that sort of bestiality that we have. Religions were very real. The prophets had a very pragmatic understanding of human life. They knew human beings are flawed individuals, and yet they instilled within human beings that lofty sense of purpose that took them out of the clutches of greed, paradise and hell, that made them into noble men. And this truth with which the Prophet came in his pragmatic appeal was so captivating that the same people who used to kill each other and then allow for years of vendettas, by the time he leaves them, they become such noble human beings that we find this in the Battle of Uhud, that one has fallen. When the water bearer goes to him, he sends him to the next one. He says, the one ahead of me is more in need of water than I. Go to him. The same person who would have killed the other one, who would have consumed the water for himself and not cared for the other, sends him to the next one to the third one to the first one. By the time the water bearer comes to the first one has died. He runs to the second one, he has died. He goes to the third one has died. The same people who used to kill each other are now dying for each other. The reason for this success was the beautiful appeal, the realistic understanding of religion and the religion had of human existence. Today's religion is a very different religion. In today's religion, and how this has affected us to the core and how it is ruining our experience of life. Today's religion presumes a child to take birth as an angel. Today's sense of religion. Whereas the prophetic understanding of religion and human life was what? That a child takes birth within the cradle of animality. He is nothing more than an animal. And through the animality will flow humanity gradually and slowly. And that is the way he designed it. That weakness culminates into beautiful strength. And a noble human being arises who then stretches out his arms and flows towards the angelic realms. This was the appeal of religion. It balanced out the world and the hereafter. It balanced out needs and the loftier moral sentiments of human beings, and not condemning anything, but condoning every single thing that humanity had. A person went and very lovingly, in a romantic way, placed a morsel of food in the mouth of his spouse. The Prophet smiled. He said, Prophet, Allah will give you paradise for this. He said, I've done it for my selfish reasons. He said, even then, what you have done is something so beautiful. And Allah appreciates this, that you've done it within the parameters of what is lawful. The Prophet condoned these things. The prophetic notion of human life and the understanding Islam had of human life was a very real one. And hence the appeal. You see, human beings are very positive. Before Allah communicates to us within the Quran, He communicates to us directly to our own human condition. It's very simple. When the Prophet came and he gave the message to the human beings that were around him, what allowed them to make the judgment that yes, you are speaking the truth, if they did not know the truth before the delivering of the message? Think about this carefully. When the Prophet said that do not cheat people when you transact with them, what made people around him say, he makes sense, if they did not already make sense of it before he said it to them? And hence the Prophet said to them, I am the outer prophet who has come to awaken the inner prophet. If the truth is not already there, the reminder means nothing. The Quran is known as the reminder. Reminding us of what? Reminding us of the truth that is already there. Otherwise the Quran will make no sense. You see, me and you fail to understand that we are the prime authorities here. We are the prime subjects. I believe in God because I believe in God. Listen to this statement. I believe in God, and hence I believe. I believe in the Quran. I believe in the Bible. I believe in other religious revealed works. I believe in Islam. It is I who is making that judgment. Primarily and fundamentally, the revelation is here, within every heart. And secondarily, it is there within the written work. Fundamentally, the Prophet is here. The second Prophet is there who is reminding this Prophet and awakening him to the truth. We have forgotten how important our existence is. And hence we have fallen into this trap, what we are going to discuss and inshallah slowly explore. So the beauty about religion was its realistic appreciation of human life, its ability to move human beings through their own limited context into a greater form of existence as individuals and as a community. This was the appeal within religion. It wasn't an imposition upon human beings. And the way in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has fashioned the whole of this world is the way in which He has fashioned me and you. The whole of this world is flowing. It's a beautiful world. It is creating and recreating itself. Do you ever find a moment's pause in the world of God? Does it ever pause at any point? It's always evolving, don't you see? Do we ever find the human being pausing? Whenever there is challenge, we surpass that challenge with flying colors, don't we? If there were no challenges on the face of this earth, by Allah, we would create challenges to bring out the best in us. When has any natural phenomena defeated human beings? When he becomes tired of land, he takes to seas. When he becomes tired of sea, he takes to the air. At one point they said if man was intended to fly, he would have been given wings. He created wings himself. At one point it was said, pray for a cure for malaria. The human being became the hand of God Himself to supply the cure. At one point people used to live in cages, frightened of darkness. At another point they've created light themselves. Do you see any stopping in the human surge forward? This is the way Allah has created us. He wants us to move forward to attain some noble purpose. Everything is supposed to be geared around that nature of human beings. That is the nature of the world, and that was the appeal within religion, because religions liberated human beings and said to human beings, go, explore, cast your rains upon the oceans and upon the heavens. It's all yours. Amazing, isn't it? And that is why religions had this appeal. When the Prophet came, look at the Quran he brought. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ? Do they not contemplate upon the contents of the Quran? And then what did he do? The verses upon verses prompting the human mind to examine nature. Examine nature. Do you see any flaw therein? Look at the meticulous way in which everything is coming together. Look at the beautiful ecology that is there. What happened as a result was that those nomadic Arabs who did not know more than the shimmering sands of Arabia, who could not know anything but grazing of their cattle and their camels and their wars and their insecurities and whatever superstitions that they had, from that point to becoming the fathers of the modern scientific methods of data collection, empirical data and its evaluation. From where to where? The Quran liberated them in accordance with their nature. The Prophet said, the world is your world, take it. How did he do it? He instilled within them confidence. He said, question, critique, and arrive at the truth. In fact, at the very beginning of Islam, he placed La ilaha, there is no God. There is no limitation. There is no restriction. Your natural disposition is such that you break every limit, and I'm ordaining that from God. He gave it a religious color to that very primordial tendency through which Allah has created me and you. And hence this beautiful appeal that the religions have. I just want to go into this topic a little bit more, but I was just thinking I'll take it slowly and gradually if that's okay. It's going to be heavily critical afterwards. So don't be fazed. But look at the Muslim of today. You know, we take, and I'm sorry if I'm taking a dig here, again, if these are cheap shots that I'm firing, but it's something that will emphasize the point that I'm trying to make. Today's Muslim prides that my 4-year-old child fasted. What nonsense is this? Why make a 4-year-old child fast? What's wrong with the Muslim community? Allah wants him to be a baby, mischievous, break things, eat and drink. Why are we indoctrinating them in this way? Their state of weakness does not allow them to do those things. There is something terribly wrong with us. If the Sharia has put 3 rakat salah, we will pray 100 rakat. Why pray 100 rakat for what? Are we becoming 100 times better people? When Ali ibn Abi Talib salamullah was asked, which is the prayer that has been accepted by the Lord? Do you know what he said? Inna salah tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. Salah prevents you from things which are unbefitting and reprehensible. So he said, if you pray salah and after that you feel like a better person, it's been accepted. After my 100 rakat prayers, do I really feel like a better person? Or do I feel like a person who does not want to know anybody around him? In fact, I become a worse person. But then there is this culture, pray more, fast more, do more Hajj. I go Hajj every year, by the way. Pray more Quran. But what the Prophet was teaching and what is the natural state of human beings is something very, very different. It is a flow from weakness into beautiful strength in which the weaknesses are not frowned upon, but the weaknesses are celebrated. How beautiful is that religion of God? The very way in which a human being ought to exist. Now, anything produced within religion or by religion ought to be positive, promoting growth, giving a greater state of confidence to the human being. And that is our natural state. What the Prophet did, what the prophets before him did. They all understood very realistically the nature of human existence. Human beings can never be stopped. And that is why religions were liberating. You see, the human being wants to be good. We want to live in harmony and peace with the rest of the world. We want to share good. Religions promoted all of those things that human beings have at the core of their own beings. If religions were not to have promoted these things, religions would not have worked. The tension we are seeing within the Muslim world is due to this movement away from the essence of religion. Today's Islam does not ordain all those beautiful human values that are at the core of humanity. It's become an imposition upon human individual. Islam of the Prophet condoned human values and promoted them. Not only human moral values, the human intellectual surge. It stated, go, ask questions, critique everything, find the truth. Today's Muslim finds it abhorrent to ask questions, to critique anything. If anybody were to ask, well, why should I be in this way? How can this Islam appeal to anybody? Tell me. An Islam that immediately says only Muslim will go to paradise, the formalistic Muslim, and the rest will go to hell. How can this Islam appeal to anybody? An Islam in which there is no sense of human rights for women. They are treated like cattle. An Islam in which women are seen at the mercy of man. And whenever a mujtahid feels particularly benevolent, he digs his hand into the pockets of right and says to a woman, I give you another right today. You don't have to cook for your husband if you don't want to. And the woman is pleased with this. What has gone wrong with us? Can I have a salawat, please? I normally say good things about women to ensure that I get invited again, yes? Because the rest of the content will definitely get me killed. How can this Islam appeal to anyone? In which a woman wants a divorce, the husband says, I don't want to give you a divorce. And the poor thing is stuck there. No rights. And then it's a long battle of writing to the mujtahid and his wakil for 2 years before she gets her divorce. Is this really appealing to us? This Islam? Its theology is skewed, its law system is messed up, and we are proud to be Muslims. Our claims are all false. We will be the best global system. What global system? You don't even have anything to talk about globally. You yourself have become parochial. You don't even do one Eid in one household. And you're talking about a global system? Today's religion has become highly inconsistent with human nature. It's an imposition upon human beings, and hence this great struggle within the religious people. Anything born through humanity has to be positive, growth promoting. The notion of Mahdiism is a very positive notion, extremely positive. It is not something novel introduced by Islam, the formal Islam. It has been there for as long as human beings have been there. From the very first instance of the awakening of Adam, Mahdiism has been there. We will look at the Jewish tradition, we will look at the Christian tradition, we will look at the Buddhist and the Hindu traditions, we will look at Marxism, you will find all of them promote the notion of Mahdiism. Just like Islam does. Mahdi exists in all cultures, because it is supposed to be the product of the peak of human aspiration. Human beings at the core of themselves, they know that they can attain such a glorious rank of existence. They have depicted that rank as Mahdi, as an individual, as a system, as the common ethos, as we will interpret it in the days to come. It is there, ingrained within our psychology. Mahdiism is something that we are flowing to. It's supposed to be a very positive notion that pushes forward the human progression. It was meant to be in that positive light. You see, in the 1980s, when I was a lad, the Maulanas used to tell us that when Mahdi comes, you will see each other in the palms of your hands. The state of insecurity was such, however, the state of backwardness and regression in the mind of the Muslim was such, that we said, my God, this will be a miracle that Mahdi will bring. Little did we know, it was a technological achievement that the Japanese will make. Now think of it in this way. Our thinking about it was totally wrong, because it was a very bleak, negative thinking. We were thinking that Mahdi will come and create a miracle. This is the miraculous, mystical world in which me and you live, the Muslim. It's not a real world, it's a cocooned world, it's a delusional world. Everything is a miracle, everything, I don't know, comes from the heavens somewhere. We knew about this hadith how long ago? 1,200 years at least, or 300 years from the time of Imam Sadiq Salamullah alayhi. Imagine if our reading of the hadith was accurate in accordance with our human condition. We would have immediately said, if the Imam has said this, it means it's physically possible to achieve. We would have had a head start of 1,300 years, and we would have come upon mobile communication 100 or 200 years ago.
as opposed to the Japanese accidentally coming upon it. Can you see this? But it is our negative reading through the negativity that is within our minds, by converting every positive notion into a very bleak negative notion. Look at the ahadiths about Mahdism. When Mahdi comes, he will rule upon the Jews with their Torah, upon the Christians with their Injil, upon the Muslims with their Quran. Isn't it a pluralistic society? Where is this monolithic sort of a state of just Islam ruling upon everybody? It's a very real life that Mahdi will come and inherit. 3, how can Mahdi come and impose values upon human minds that have not already understood the meaning of human values? When the Prophet came and he went, the community again reverted. Yes? When Imam Ali came, Imam Hassan came, Imam Hussain came, this was the way the community has been. If Mahdi comes and then the next day the community reverts again, then what has the Mahdi achieved? We don't have any more Mahdis to send. I mean, God doesn't have any more Mahdis to send. Mahdi comes, establishes justice on this earth. It would be a very superficial justice if human beings don't understand the meaning of justice. For as soon as the Mahdi goes, the human beings will be the same again. And I ask myself, is this the notion and the end goal that me and you are thinking about? Is that this all there is to it? Seriously, think about this. God has been working for hundreds of billions of years in constructing this universe. Do you know how old this universe is? We don't have a time to it because time begins with matter extended in space. So it's an eternal universe. God has been working eternally until He created this earth. Billions and billions of years of work has gone into this. An infinite universe. No beginning, no end. It is expanding and we don't know what it means, expanding infinitely. How baffling is this mystery? In all of this, through stellar dust, He creates this beautiful array of colors. The intricacies that are there, the soft fabric, the emotions, the intellect. He creates all of this, places the earth in a place. Then for millions of years He fashions this earth, and asteroids falls upon it, giving it water. The atmosphere is neutralized. Through water takes birth, in that primordial soup, those simple DNA structures. He creates a slant upon the earth so that the sun is just enough to sustain life on it. He places a moon there so that the tidal waves are there to sustain life. The gravitational force, the rotation of it around its own axis. Do you know how much work has gone into all of this? Billions of years of meticulous work. He creates all of this. Then He says, I initiate life from water. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. We create everything from water, and from them there are creatures that crawl upon their bellies. And then there are those that take to 2, and then there are those that take to 4. Until He brings the human being about on the face of this earth. And this foolish human being imagines that after all these billions of years of work, his purpose is that he lives here, a Mahdi will come and kill all the evil people, and that's it, Qiyamah. Is that it? Has God gone through so much trouble for this human being to presume his life means so little? It has no purpose, totally devoid of meaning. Is this human life? And is this the life in which me and you want to exist? Think about it carefully. There is nothing more to life than this. A fight of good and evil. Mahdi will come and kill all the evil people. The good people will have a glass of water or tea. I can't say wine, of course. Glass of tea or a cup of tea, and then say, that's it. Qiyamah dawn upon us now. That's it. And God went through all this trouble for this. Only this. The brain that Allah has given us. The brain, my God. Think about what we are. Incidentally, somebody asked, can we donate organs? I said, if it's a useless organ. So I said, well, according to that, the Muslim can only donate his brain. He never makes any use of it. We ask ourselves, please don't be offended. Do give generous smiles and salawat as well, please.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
You know, I often ask myself, I have awoken in this world. I am asking, who am I? Where am I? Why am I? What is the meaning of all of this? Does it really make sense? Pray and I'll give you paradise, and don't pray and I'll punish you. Seriously, is God that petty? My God, I would say to Allah, Allah, you've created this brain. My God, rejoice. Yourself you should rejoice. And He says, oh feeble mind, I want to rejoice. Your success is my success. Tell me, when an instructor has a class of students, what does he want? Does he want these students just to submit to everything he says? Or does he want them to challenge him so that they come of age? He takes utmost pride in those bright students that challenge him. And they come to an understanding of the truth greater than their instructor. A father rejoices when his son comes of age and is able to inherit the whole business empire. But our God, the greatest father, the greatest instructor, is so insecure that He doesn't want me and you to ask any questions. Instead, He wants to treat us like we treat kindergarten children. Do this, don't do this. This is red, it's good. This is black, stay away from it. That's all our God wants from us. He has created such phenomenal brains and He doesn't want them to be ignited. I will say to God, why did you ignite this inquisitive nature in me if you did not want to honor it? And I always say to God, was this it? That you've created me, I pray namaz and you give me paradise? What difference does paradise make to me anyway? Oh Lord, when you are to be achieved, when you are to be found, what cause do I have with your paradise? Or look at the dua of the fourth Imam, in which he states, by Allah, if you were to throw me in the pits of hell, I will open my arms and embrace the flames of hell. And I will say to the keepers of hell, if this is the only path to my Lord, then I accept this willingly. And I shall exclaim, O my Lord, within hell, that I am deeply in love with the one who burns me herein. There has to be something grander than this. The way Mahdiism has been understood right now is totally inconsistent with the way in which it's supposed to be. Can I just ask somebody to remind me of the time? Is my time up?
Which you got?
How long do I have? 5 minutes? 5, 10?
You got time.
Yeah. Well, the way the Mahdiism is right now, it's a very defeatist concept. It's a very bleak concept, totally inconsistent with human existence. What are we told? We are told that the world will become a hopeless place. Human beings don't have any hope in their abilities to do good. And that's when the Mahdi will come. The situation will become so dire that people will be crying for the Mahdi. It's a very bleak, blackened outlook. It's an outlook that has totally ruined the experience of life. And it's instilled so many cultures that the essence of Islam has already gone from Islam altogether. That the essence of Islam has been removed from Islam altogether. How? Think about this carefully. When we get this notion of a very bleak outlook, we have nothing to look forward to. Yes? There is no incentive to try and do any good. But when the onus is put upon us that no, your natural human instinct is to work for a better tomorrow and unleash that instinct, immediately will make a difference to this world of ours. Not only to ourselves, but to the collective body. When we are told that the whole of the human family, the whole of the human community is your family, you have to contribute towards making a better family, towards educating them intellectually, allowing them to flourish, morally allowing them to grow, we will play our part in a very positive way. Think about this. We have condemned humanity to the pits of hell. Yes? Christians and Jews and the Hindus and the Buddhists will all go to hell. Heaven will become a very lonely place, I must say. It won't have many people there. And of course, unending gardens that we can go for millions of years. Won't you get bored with those gardens for millions of years? Eating all the fruits, even if there are 1,000 fruits, in an unending life, you will eat all those fruits. The natural human tendency is to get bored with the same thing. It would be better if the Christians and the Jews are with us in paradise. At least it will add some color. We can have a different conversation rather than just listen to madrises like the one I give you. It will be a better place. Our worldview is one in which the majority of human beings will go to hell. Immediately, what does that do to our minds? That these people actually are not very good people. that genuineness of humanity is taken away altogether. You know that? First and foremost, our interaction with them becomes an ungodly interaction. What sort of a nonsensical God is this who creates somebody in his image and then says, I'll burn you? A mother has 10 children. She loves all of them equally. None of the 10 children are the same. Are they? Their features are different, their genders are different, their aptitudes are different, the way in which they relate to her are different, yet she loves each and every one of them blindly, doesn't she? The same God who has imparted a ray of his mercy in the form of a mother gives mother such blind love, and he himself is so uncaring that will burn everybody? Does any of this make any sense to you? Think about this carefully. The world that we are going to, in accordance with the Mahdi notion that we have, is a very bleak world. It's a darkened world, a world of hopelessness. So today, we are condemning majority of humanity to the pits of hell. But do you know when me and you get sick, who cures us? The same hand who will burn in hell brings the cure of God and cures me. Were the Muslims the people who made breakthrough in providing cures for cancers, or was it the enemy of God according to me and you? God is playing a joke with us. He's saying, look, you are condemning him to the pits of hell, and I have made him my name, Ya Shafi, and giving you cure through him. You pray to me, oh Allah, cure me, and I send somebody who according to you is my enemy and burning in hell to cure you. Think about this. Let us open our minds. It shows we have gone wrong drastically. The one thing, when we condemn them to the pits of hell, we don't have any genuineness left in us. Two, when we say that the outlook is so bleak, there is no incentive for us to excel in accordance with our human aptitude. And that's why the Muslim community has failed today so drastically. This is where it is right now. Whereas Islam is that glorious, all-embracing human reality that embraces the formal Islam and every other Abrahamic faith. I don't believe for a minute that any faith is other than Abrahamic faith, whether it's Hinduism or Buddhism, Christianity or Judaism. And how distant we have become from the Islam of the Prophet and the Quran. Salman Farsi, I'm going to quote 2 verses to see how the Quran has understood it. Salman Farsi was saddened at the fate of his Christian brethren. And the Prophet said, why? He said they will go to hell. The Prophet was dismayed. And the verse came, indeed those who believe, the Jews, the Christians, the Sabians. Amongst these 4, and Allah does not distinguish, does not give a lofty pedestal to anybody. He puts them all on the same pedestal. Amongst these 4, whoever believes in Allah and in the right day and in the last day and does righteous deeds, he has omitted the mention of belief in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Amongst these 4, whoever believes in Allah in the last day does righteous deeds shall have their reward with Allah and have no fear and no grief. And Allah reserves inna awliya la khawfun alayhim wa la hum yahzanun. When He says فَلَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ, they will have their reward and they will have no grief. And this word of no grief Allah uses exclusively for His awliya, that the friends of God will have no grief. Think about this. In Surah An-Nisa, this was in Surah Baqarah, in Surah An-Nisa, the Muslims were bragging that we are the best amongst the Abrahamic faiths because we have the final prophet. The Christians were bragging that we have the immaculate conception of Christ in Jesus. The Jews were bragging that we have the first of the Abrahamic prophets. Allah responds, and look at the response. Subhanallah. لَيْسَ بِأَمَانِيِّكُمْ وَلَا بِأَمَانِيَّ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ. It is not your wishful thinking, O Muslims, nor the wishful thinking of the people of the book. He who believes in Allah, the last day, does righteous deeds, whether a man or a woman will have their reward. How universal is the statement? How universal is this statement? He is doing away with all of these 3 prophets. And then the next verse says, because you are following the path of Abraham the most righteous. He does not say Jesus, Moses or Muhammad. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This was the Quran, a very realistic understanding. In this series of talks, we will explore the human condition in accordance with existence, and that beautiful appeal that religions had. And in that light, try and reevaluate the whole notion of Mahdiism. But together with it, we'll be highly critical of the way Mahdiism is today, the negativity it has brought into our minds, and the way in which it has fashioned our religion, laden with cultures which are totally superficial and are nothing to do with Islam altogether, and practices in which the human individual lacks confidence altogether. So it will be critical, but we will reevaluate as well in the next 9 odd talks that we will have together. Mahdi is a product of human yearning. It's a very natural part of humanity to yearn Mahdi, because humanity is flowing towards a state of Mahdiism. It's a state of utmost completion. Look at the hadith that have come. I'm just going to narrate one hadith. It says that when Mahdi comes, he will not come to make you pray or fast, perform hajj, or give the poor due. You will be doing all of these things anyway. When Mahdi comes, his sole role will be to place his blessed hand upon your heads and drive your intellects to their completion. That is the beautiful notion of Mahdi that we receive from the ahadith. We will reevaluate the ahadith as well, the negative ahadith, as to how to interpret them in the course of the next few days, if Allah so wishes. But if we were to understand Mahdiism, then that can restore the pride that the Muslims once had. And it can make Islam the most embracing truth that it's supposed to be. A truth in which formal Islam is a part of that greater truth, not the entirety of that truth, together with all other human beautiful surges towards completion. The negativity that notions instilling upon our minds need to be emphasized. When the preparation for the battle of Karbala was being made, Kholi, a prominent figure that we read about within that battle, a most accursed person, comes to his wife, and in the want of receiving the booty of war, was preparing to go to meet with Hussein ibn Ali in battle. Now Imam Hussein had arrived into Karbala at that point, and Kholi was in Kufa. His wife, who was a blessed soul, she said, "Why do you make this preparation?" He said, "To receive Hussein in battle." She said, "Sorrow be your lot. Do you not know he is the grandson of the Prophet?" He turned to her and he said, "Whatever he may be, there is a hadith that if anybody rises against a Khalifa, then put him to death." Now, think about this very carefully. If anybody rises against the Khalifa, put him to death. He has suspended his human intuition and his reason. Because the hadith says it, we will kill Hussein. But Hussein is the author of the hadiths after the Prophet. He is the authority that can initiate the hadith. How can you use a hadith against the grandson of the author who has given him that position? Al-Hasan al-Hussein, Imaman Qama wa Qa'ada, they'd all heard this. The reason was that Bani Umayyah had concocted many ahadith in order to legitimize the rule of Bani Umayyah. And amongst the concoctions that they had brought about was this hadith, that he who rises against a Khalifa, put him to death no matter who he is. So even if the Prophet were to rise against a Khalifa, the Prophet kill him, even though the Prophet is the one who dictates the terms of righteousness. When Zakir Naik blessed Yazid, do you know what his reasoning was? He said, because Imam Ghazali blessed Yazid. I will say, so what if Imam Ghazali blessed Yazid? Imam Ghazali was wrong. Your reason should prevail. Even if the Quran were to say, condone evil, we should say the Quran is wrong. Simple as that. If the Quran were to have come with this nonsense inside it, it would have never appealed to the human beings. If the Quran were to have said, go and kill a non-Muslim for the sake of that he is non-Muslim, or the Quran were to have said, go and lie, or the Quran were to have said, go and cheat people, or kill orphans, we would have said, this is nonsense, wouldn't we? We would have stood against the Quran and said, this is not godly, this is demonic. So what if Imam Ghazali has said something? Imam Ghazali was wrong, simple, blank. If a mujtahid and a marja says something, they are wrong. End of story. If a marja says do 3 Eids, they are wrong. Reason prevails. If a saint, Ibn Arabi or Rumi or a Sufi says something which is nonsensical, then it is nonsensical. End of story. Finish. This is exactly what has happened to us. What Kholi was going through. On the one hand is that human intuition, that beautiful seed of God's communication, and that reason. On the other hand, you have these silly ahadiths, these nonsensical ahadith. This is exactly what has happened to us. Exactly the same thing. It doesn't make sense, but we will follow it because it's Islam. It's not Islam, it's nothing to do with Islam, it's a fabrication in the name of Islam. The Mahdi notion that Islam gives is the most beautiful notion, it needs to be understood. But I just want to emphasize that it's the age-old cancer that has infected us and a plague that has infected us for as long as we can think and understand. These people are now ready to kill Hussein ibn Ali. There's a person from Syria who hears that Imam Hussein will be forced out of Medina. He says, let me go and see how this emperor and king of Arabia prepares for his departure. He narrates the scene. He said, I went into the area of Bani Hashim. I saw Hussein was sitting on a seat, and around him were circling the youths of Hashim. In that, there was a call, and it was saying, O sons of Hashim, lower your gazes. They all lowered their gazes. I saw a youthful, prince-like person emerge from the house, and together with him was a woman, fully covered. He went, took her by the hand. He knelt in front of the carriage upon the camel and allowed her to sit. I asked, who was this? I was told, this was Layla, and that was Akbar, her son. Once again, there was a call. O children of Hashim, lower your gazes. They all lowered their gazes. And I saw a man appear with the majesty of emperors upon his face. He had a mole on his cheek, and with him were 2 women. He filled my heart with awe. He came with the 2 ladies. He knelt in front of the camel and allowed them to ascend within the carriage. I said, who was this and who were they? I was told this was Abbas. And they were his sisters, Zainab and Kulthum. I will say, oh Abbas, Zainab has not forgotten this scene. It is the 11th of Muharram. Hamid ibn Muslim narrates that Zainab looked towards the Maqtal and she said, Wa Abbasa, were you not the one who allowed me to sit within the carriage on the day in which we departed from Medina? O Abbas, come and look at the state of your sister. She has no veil upon her head. Her hands are tied to her back, and there is no one to help her upon the naked camel. This scene passes. Hussein's grandmother comes to Hussein and says, "O child, I hear you are preparing to leave for Iraq and Kufa." He said, "Oh mother, I have no choice." She said, "Oh child, your grandfather has warned me against your travel to Iraq. And he has given me some dust from Karbala. And he has said that it will turn red upon the killing of my Hussein." He said, "Oh grandmother, I know well the events that are to unfold. And hence I go and bid farewell to my grandfather." She said, "Oh child, I beseech you for the sake of Allah, do not advance to Kufa." He said, "Oh grandmother, do you wish to see the events that await my reception?" He said, "Oh child, yes." They sat at the grave of the Prophet, and we hear this from the Dhakirin and the narrators. The Imam said, "Oh mother, look through my fingers and tell me what you see." Salma is looking, and she looks at the scene and she cries out aloud. He said, "Oh mother, what is it that you see?" She said, I saw decapitated bodies. And I saw little children dying of thirst and crying out for water. He said, "Oh grandmother, look on." She cried and fell. "What did you see?" "Oh child, I saw you extracting a dagger from the chest of your Akbar." "Oh grandmother, look on." She looked and she fainted. She regained consciousness. She said, "Oh child, your head was brutally being detached from your body. And you are calling out, 'Oh mother, come to my aid.'" ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. مات من حسين.